Sixers fans, I'm not gonna lie. Today feels like one of those days where the headlines might not look massive at first glance. But when you really dig into them, they could tell us a lot about what this front office is planning behind the scenes. And that's why today's video is such an important one. Because we actually have two different Sixers stories to talk about today. The first one involves a move that could happen before free agency even begins. A decision that might seem small on the surface, but could reveal exactly how aggressively Philadelphia plans to manage every dollar available this summer. Then the second story is about a veteran scorer who could suddenly become one of the most realistic free agent targets for the Sixers. A player who might help solve one of the biggest weaknesses that hurt this team when it mattered most. And honestly, when you put these two stories together, it starts to feel like we're getting an early glimpse into how the organization is thinking about this offseason. Are they looking to squeeze every bit of value out of the salary cap? Are they preparing to make multiple low-cost moves instead of chasing one big splash? And could these decisions end up shaping what this roster looks like when next season begins? We're going to break down everything because there are some really interesting details hidden inside both of these reports. But before we get into it, if you're a real Sixers fan, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. And if you're new here, subscribe to 76ers Daily News. My name is Henry. This channel is still brand new. And we're trying to reach our first 1,000 subscribers. So if you truly live and breathe Philadelphia 76ers basketball and want to be part of this community from the very beginning, hit subscribe and join us. Now let's talk about what's going on in Philadelphia. Alright, Sixers fans, let's start with the first story because this is exactly the kind of move that doesn't generate huge headlines around the NBA, but it could tell us a lot about how the front office plans to attack free agency. According to a recent prediction from Adam Aronson of Philly Voice, the Philadelphia 76ers are expected to decline the team option of forward Trendon Watford before free agency officially begins. Now, at first glance, some fans might see that and think the Sixers are simply moving on from Watford. But that's not necessarily what's being projected here. In fact, the expectation is that Philadelphia could decline his option and then immediately look to bring him back on a new contract. And the reason has everything to do with salary cap management. Watford currently has a team option worth $2.8 million for next season. Aronson explained that if the Sixers declined that option and then re-sign him to a one-year minimum contract, the cap hit would actually be lower because of how the NBA's minimum salary rules work. Instead of carrying a cap hit slightly above $2.8 million, Watford would count for roughly $2.45 million against the cap. That may not sound like a huge difference, but it would save Philadelphia more than $350,000 in cap space. And if we've learned anything over the years, it's that smart front offices look for every possible advantage around the margins. Sometimes the difference between landing a player and missing out on one comes down to having a little extra flexibility available. Looking back at Watford's season, he was actually one of the quieter additions the Sixers made during the summer of 2025. He signed a 2-year deal worth $5.3 million after spending 2 seasons with the Brooklyn Nets. Before Brooklyn, he played 2 years with the Portland Trail Blazers. One thing that immediately stood out when he arrived in Philadelphia was his relationship with Tyrese Maxey. The two already had a strong connection, and that made the transition into the locker room much smoother. On the court, Watford appeared in 53 games. He came off the bench in all but 7 of those contests. He averaged 6.5 points, 3.3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game while shooting an efficient 51.5% from the field. And honestly, for a low-cost role player, those are respectable numbers. There were definitely moments during the regular season when Watford gave the second unit some energy, some toughness, and some versatility. But here's where things get complicated. The reality is that the Sixers didn't achieve their goals this season. This team was not good enough, the supporting cast wasn't consistent enough. And when the playoffs arrived, Watford's role became extremely limited. He averaged only 5.7 minutes in the postseason. Across 2 playoff rounds, he received 4 DNPs. That tells you everything you need to know about where he stood in the playoff hierarchy. So while bringing him back on a cheaper deal could make sense financially, he shouldn't be one of the franchise's top off-season priorities. I actually think this is where most Sixers fans will agree. If Watford returns at the right price, great. If he doesn't, that's fine too. The bigger goal has to be improving the roster around Tyrese Maxey and building a deeper rotation that can actually survive playoff basketball. And that's where today's second story becomes really interesting. Because while the first report is about saving money, the second report is about how Philadelphia could potentially use that flexibility. The player being discussed is veteran guard Jordan Clarkson. And honestly, when I first saw this idea, I immediately understood why people around the league are connecting him to the Sixers. Philadelphia desperately needs more scoring off the bench. We all watched this team throughout the season. There were far too many nights when the starters sat down and the offense completely stalled. The second unit simply didn't generate enough points consistently. In fact, the Sixers bench averaged just 32.4 points per game this season, which ranked as the fourth worst mark in the entire NBA. That's a major problem. And Jordan Clarkson has spent most of his career solving exactly that kind of problem. The 34-year-old veteran just finished a season with the New York Knicks, who went on to win the NBA championship. But despite being part of a title-winning team, Clarkson wasn't a major piece of their playoff run. Because New York had so much backcourt depth, his opportunities were limited throughout the season. Clarkson averaged a career-low 8.6 points per game while playing just 17.8 minutes per contest. That's nearly 6 minutes fewer than his previous career low in playing time. So the production dipped, but the important question is why it dipped. Was it because Clarkson suddenly forgot how to score? Or was it because he simply wasn't getting enough opportunities? Personally, I think it's the second answer. This is still a player who won 6th Man of the Year only 5 years ago. This is still someone who has averaged 15.3 points per game across his NBA career. This is still a player who can create offense for himself, attack defenses, and heat up quickly when given the chance. And that's exactly why the fit with Philadelphia becomes intriguing. The Sixers don't necessarily need Clarkson to be a star. They don't need him to score 20 points every night. They need somebody who can come off the bench and provide instant defense when the second unit starts struggling. They need somebody who can create his own shot when possessions get ugly. They need somebody who can punish opposing bench units. Jordan Clarkson has been doing that for most of his career. The best part for Philadelphia is that he probably won't be expensive. At this stage of his career, Clarkson isn't expected to command a massive contract. There's a realistic possibility that he could be available near the veteran minimum range if the right role is offered. And that's where the Sixers become a very logical destination. Philadelphia should be able to offer meaningful playing time. They can offer a clear bench scoring role, and unlike some contenders that already have crowded backcourts, the Sixers have a very obvious need that Clarkson could fill immediately. Of course, no move is perfect. At 34 years old, Clarkson isn't a long-term solution. He won't fix every problem this roster has. And he certainly won't turn Philadelphia into a championship favorite by himself. But when you're talking about low-cost off-season additions, it's hard to ignore the potential value. If the Sixers are serious about improving their bench without spending heavily in free agency, Jordan Clarkson is exactly the type of player they should be evaluating. And when you connect both stories together, you can start to see a possible strategy developing. Philadelphia may be looking for ways to create every bit of financial flexibility possible. Not because they're preparing for one giant blockbuster move, but because they want enough room to improve multiple areas of the roster. Declining Trendon Watford's option to save cap space. Exploring affordable veterans like Jordan Clarkson. Those are the kinds of moves that winning front offices make when they're trying to strengthen the entire roster instead of chasing headlines. At the end of the day, that's what this offseason is really about. The Sixers have Tyrese Maxey, they have the foundation pieces in place. But everyone inside the organization knows that what happened last season wasn't good enough. The depth wasn't good enough, the bench wasn't good enough, and the margin for error wasn't good enough. That's why every roster decision matters right now. Whether it's a $350,000 cap-saving move involving Trendon Watford or a bargain free agent target like Jordan Clarkson, these decisions could play a role in determining whether Philadelphia takes a step forward next season or finds itself facing the same problems all over again. And as fans, that's what we're all watching right now. Not just the big names, not just the splashy rumors, but the smaller moves that could quietly help shape a more complete roster around Tyrese Maxey and give this team a better chance when playoff basketball returns. Now I want to hear from you. Would you bring Trendon Watford back on a cheaper deal? And do you think Jordan Clarkson would be a good addition to the Sixers bench next season? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I read every single one of them. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to 76ers Daily News. We're still a brand new channel and we're pushing toward our first 1,000 subscribers. So if you truly believe in the future of the Philadelphia 76ers and want to grow this community with us from day one, hit that subscribe button and join the family. As always, thank you for watching, and let's see what this offseason has in store for our Sixers.